Gaming as we know it is in a pretty weird place. Why are AAA titles struggling while some indie games briefly captivate players only just to fade away? In this video, we'll dive into the shifting landscape of the gaming industry and why indie games like Lethal Company, Palworld, and Helldivers 2 have emerged as surprising hits. So, what exactly is happening in the gaming market? How have these indie hits both risen and fallen so quickly? And what does this mean for the future of gaming? Later in the video, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty details, but first, let's rewind a bit.
A lot of the $70 games we've been getting recently are just terrible.
Just charging the most absurd prices possible on these microtransactions.
The modern day loot box is probably one of the things that bothers me the most.
Are they just an obnoxious business practice?
Modern gaming started with a lot of microtransactions and companies that seem to care more about money than the actual gaming experience. Enter loot boxes, soulless games, and EA destroying their reputation. But even all that is just the beginning.
SBMM is, I dare say, killing video games.
SBMM.
First and foremost are designed to sell you battle passes and cosmetic DLC.
Tell me what Warzone season you think we'll be in when we finally see an official Warzone anti-cheat.
Enter the creation of the Battle Pass, unfinished games becoming the norm, skill-based matchmaking, hackers, and you guessed it, even more microtransactions and companies trying to milk every dollar.
This skill-based matchmaking is maxed out.
Because of all this, modern AAA games have been performing way worse. Call of Duty is nowhere near its peak, and Assassin's Creed just doesn't feel the same as it used to. It's safe to say that players were fed up with the constant cash grabs and lack of innovation. But then, something interesting happened. In came the new and appealing indie games out of nowhere, Lethal Company, Palworld, and Helldivers 2. And these games completely took the internet by storm. So what's the deal with these games in particular? Lethal Company is a very unique blend of horror and humor. The game revolves around a group of players who must enter various facilities to collect valuable items. But the main appeal comes from the fact that these buildings are infested with supernatural entities that can randomly appear, creating intense and often hilarious situations. The players have to work together, using tools and strategies to avoid these entities while completing their objectives. The combination of the unpredictability and the cooperative gameplay made it a standout in the horror genre. And for a while, it even outsold Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. Next up, we got Palworld. At first glance, it kinda looks like a Pokemon ripoff with its similar character designs, but for the most part, players didn't mind. People were fine with giving support to Palworld and enjoying it, rather than getting hung up on it being too similar to the Nintendo counterpart, showing that people are willing to make this shift away from the AAA game industry if the game is fun, which is a pretty large contributor for the shift in gaming that's currently happening. Anyway, in Palworld, you capture creatures called pals, and use them to help with tasks like farming, building, and combat. And the pals are basically subject to slavery, but hey, it's still a fun game. What really sets Palworld apart is its mix of peaceful and action-packed gameplay. You can raise pals to build a settlement, but you can also use them in battles against various enemies. The game's charm lies in its ability to interact with pals, as well as the vast open world. The sheer variety of activities and the adorable yet powerful pals seem to keep the players pretty engaged at first. Then there's Helldivers 2. It's a co-op third-person shooter where you play as a part of an elite unit of soldiers fighting to protect Super Earth from alien threats. The game features procedurally generated missions where players must complete various objectives while dealing with swarms of enemies. One of the standout mechanics is the stratagem system, which allows players to call in various supplies, vehicles, and support items during missions. This adds a layer of strategy because players must use the right stratagems to survive increasingly difficult missions. The game's cinematic humor, chaotic action, and tactical depth made it a hit.
You guys look stupid.
One way to pinpoint why these games specifically blew up is to look at what the games have in common. To start, each game initially came out of nowhere and quickly gained significant attention and popularity off the rip. Each game introduced unique gameplay mechanics that set them apart from the other games in their respective genres. Lethal Company was able to combine horror and humor, Palworld mixed peaceful activities with combat, and Helldivers 2 featured tasks and weapons that felt pretty satisfying. This is likely because of another similarity between the games, the fact that they're all indie games. The developers didn't stifle themselves based on corporate greed and actually made the games good. Another thing all three games emphasized was their co-op multiplayer experiences, where players had to work together to achieve common goals, whether it be surviving facilities, managing a settlement with creatures, or battling alien threats. They all had a satisfying gameplay loop that worked well for what it was. Because of this, these games created strong communities around them that managed to captivate players and generate buzz. But each game faced challenges that ended up leading to a decline in their player bases as time went on. But why did these games fizzle out? Helldivers 2 first faced issues when players were frustrated by the nerfs on weapons that they had already settled in with, leading to arguments and a dwindling player base. Then came the straw that broke the camel's back, Sony's unsurprising corporate greed. The game forced people to sign up for a PlayStation Network account, even on PC, which was a huge problem because many countries were locked out of making PlayStation accounts. When this update first came out, many people were unable to play, sparking massive outrage and backlash. But even though Sony eventually fixed the issue, the damage was already done. Lethal Company's decline wasn't as sharp, but the repetitive nature of the game caused players to lose interest over time. The novelty of the scares and the humor eventually wore off, and without significant updates or new content, players just moved on to other games. Not really much else to say, it just fizzled out over time. And when it comes to Palworld, the curated and linear gameplay proved to be its downfall. Once players reached max level and did everything, there wasn't really much else to keep them engaged. The game's structured progression meant that after a certain point, there were no new challenges or experiences to be had. Positive reviews became negative, and the hype that the game worked to build up had died down. So where does that leave us now? The current state of gaming is honestly in a bit of a limbo. If we look at stats on Steam and other platforms, people are leaning back into older games like Minecraft and Counter-Strike. And let's be honest, Fortnite is just always popular. For now, people are just recycling the tried and true games because there isn't really anything else worth playing at the moment. Players just need something new and exciting to come out. As of right now, I honestly don't really know what the future of gaming holds. Who knows, maybe an indie game with unique mechanics will capture our hearts again and stick around for the long haul this time. Or maybe we'll see something completely new that we haven't seen before. But one thing's for sure, Lethal Company, Palworld, and Helldivers 2 have sparked a pretty big shift in the gaming industry. While they may have dropped off in popularity, they showed us that players are willing to embrace change and move away from the AAA titles if they see value in a game. I honestly think that these games will go down as redefining moments in the gaming industry. Thank you all for watching, and I hope this was a cool and insightful video for you guys. Let me know your thoughts on the current gaming climate in the comments below, as well as any other content you'd like to see.